Hey YouTube, welcome back to TCG, and today we are actually going to talk about a topic that's been heavily on my mind for a while, since like set 1, going to Treasure Cups and stuff, but that is the topic of whether One Piece should be best of 1 or best of 3, or even maybe best of 1 Preside. And so we're going to dive into that subject today. I'm going to give you at least my reasoning on why I think the format should change, and then I want to know your thoughts in the description. So real quick, just want to say, as per usual, if you want to support the channel directly, you can go and like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you never miss a beat. And of course, leave your thoughts in the comments below. But if you want to explore the other quadrants of Universe X, all you got to do is go in the description, hit up that link tree, and see all the things that my brand has to offer. You know, we've got the Twitch for gaming. We're playing Mega Man Battle Network right now. You've got links to get discounts off of sealed product at Mystic TCG for plenty of TCGs. And then you also have my affiliate link for TCG Player in case you want to buy singles and directly support the channel. So without further ado, let's hop into the subject matter and let's get into it. So some of you may be fine with the way the format is with the best of 1. Some of you guys may not be. And I'm going to talk about the first foremost problem for me. It's a subject that I have a whole nother video on, getting into things like regionals and treasure cups. It's hard. One of the main reasons why it's hard is simply because a lot of the prizing is exclusive. It's not something you can get in any box. It's not something you can get in any extra set. It's just specifically getting into these events and topping. Heck, even the entry is technically exclusive prizing that you will only get at these events. So when it comes to that, when the entry itself is automatically going to get you 3 times, if not more, of the entry cost you paid in lots of cases, people will join just to join. They don't even have to have a chance at winning. They don't even need to think that they're going to top. They will join just to get the exclusive prizes to collect or sell. And both of them are valid points because the collectors and competitive market generally drive the secondary market, and that's just going to be what happens with these. But with the top cards being even more exclusive, even more pricey, the serialized Luffy, the top 8 Zoro, the top 16 Usopp, the top 64 Chopper, these things, the Admirals coming out, eventually the Zoro and the Queen coming out, this just gets more and more intense. And what this makes is a format where, first off, it's very hard to get in. You have to be lucky on top of vigilant to get into these events. But on top of that, when you're playing for what could be a top 8 that nets you anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000, or just collector's items that you will never ever want to give away, you don't necessarily want things to be settled by best of 1 because this causes inconsistencies out the wazoo. Right now, One Piece is in a position where explosiveness is actually being valued at this point almost just as much as consistency, and that's insane for a card game. Normally in a card game you would value consistency over everything because you have to get through 9 rounds and you want to make sure your deck does the same thing every go. But in this particular case, people knowing it's best of 1 are just like, you know what, if my deck goes off 7 out of 10 times in an event, I'm probably topping. And so that's just kind of where it is. Law is Law is both consistent and not consistent. Law can just not see its weenies and then just not go off. Law can see its weenies and look like the best deck in the game. Law can see its weenies and your opponent can see the destruction and Law feels like a normal deck. Law cannot see its startup weenies and your opponent can see their destruction and Law feels like a brick. That's just one of the examples, you know. Green is by far the most consistent deck in the game, with a lot of searchers, boss card now in Odin that pulls from the deck, a leader and Kid that can swing twice. Green is the most consistent color in the game, and yet it is losing more and more ground because Whitebeard, Law, and Zoro are more explosive. Now granted, Zoro's pretty consistent too, but that's kind of the thing that's happening right now. And where I'm thinking that best of 3 would be a much better choice, or even best of 1 Preside, but I do think best of 3 is better, is because you don't want your tournament record to get dumpstered because of an unlucky game. And when you're playing best of 1, that unlucky game is likely to happen in most runs you have. Now, going into best of 3, you can have an unlucky match, but chances are, out of best of 3, especially with sideboarding, you have a lot more chances to iron out variance due to you actually just being able to play more than one game. One game is not just the end-all, be-all. Now, in this game as well, the cards that you have at your disposal already allow for a very good sideboard. Just look at Kinnaman. If you guys are Kinnaman players, if you guys are green players, right now, if you had to face a mirror red deck, right? Likely, you would be more opted to play things like Straw Sword, to be able to tap some of these bigger threats, some of these things like the 7-drop Kid blocker, sometimes things like the 6-drop Yamato if you want to be able to swing on it, things like that, or X-Drake it if they haven't swung with it yet. You would be much more likely to play these bigger, or these cards that tap bigger characters. However, playing against things like Zoro, playing against things like Law, you'd be more apt to side in a card that used to be a staple 3 or 4 of in all green decks, but now is not really seen too many in any, which is Nekomamushi or Cat Viper. So there are lots of cards like that. Straw Sword versus Cat Viper. Things that you don't really see in the main, but you can see for better like matchups. Facing decks like Kaido, if you find them in there, which is going to be another thing we touch on. Facing a deck like Kaido, you would want to go lower to the ground. And so against Kaido, green has more cards that you could side in that are lower to the ground, more aggressive, and side out some of your bigger late game drops, much like 7-drop Kid, which is likely to get blown up by a purple deck. There's just like a lot of things you can do there. I mean, the board wipe at least, which they can probably get to a lot better, easier, safer against a green deck than other colors. And then you have to look at the format right now. Green is barely in the format, pretty much by law, single-handedly. And then purple and blue aren't even really seeing top cuts for the most part. But you have to even think about that as well. If purple and blue could side, they could be a lot more stable in this sort of format. Purple may still have some stumbling blocks getting through the aggro matchups, but if purple could play completely anti-aggro but be able to side into heavier threats, purple would be in a much better position that would be playable even now, I believe. It would be a little harder to pilot to the top, but yeah. And then you're looking at red. If you could have a side deck right now, I do not believe that Law would actually top the way it does, because Law is a very powerful strategy, yet it is also a very fragile strategy. And I believe that its dominance or its popularity solely comes from the fact that if it high rolls, it's uncontested. And that would not be the case if you could side. Whitebeard, still a little bit of thing to crack, but even with Whitebeard, there are cards that would be better versus it. Like, there are other decks that may run, like Luffy, Zoro, they may run things like Diablo Jambe, which they can't really run effectively against Whitebeard unless it's Bowbeard. But these are things that you could side in and out to help better matchups, but like, you can't do that right now. And so right now, there's lots of cards that are left off the table that you just can't run, because siding for making your deck optimal versus Whitebeard is different than making your deck optimal versus Law. And that's just a fact. Now, the thing I also want to touch on is moving into next set. If you look at the OCG essentially is red. You're seeing Zoros and Whitebeards everywhere and some aces. Law can still do some work, but then after that, you're seeing black in Rob Lucci, and you're seeing yellow in Katakuri, sometimes Big Mom. And this is cool, but if you notice, there's still a distinct lack of blue and purple in the format, and even green. And lots of people are already tired of the format being almost strictly red, and you don't want that to last for an entire another set, another 4 months, 3 to 4 months of the game being the exact same way. I don't think people really want that. But I think if you can side, you really do start putting the pressure on the current format to not be the same way it is. Black is getting a whole nother set of support, so it'll get to the point where it has 2 full blocks, 2 full sets of support, and you can actually start more relying on, you can start actually relying more on some of the niche cards that Black has to offer, siding in and out certain removal for certain matches. And that's going to help Black's versatility a lot, because Black has plenty of answers to plenty of cards, but you do have to figure out which ones you want to main, which ones you just have to leave off the cutting room floor. However, siding would change that completely. You also have the ability to have yellow, and yellow is just a starter deck and a set at this point coming next set. However, there are still fringe cards. Even in set 1, there were fringe cards for every color. Do I run Diablo Jambe? Do I run Straw Sword? these are the cards, Brachio Bomber, like these are the cards that even with one set and some starter decks, you had to decide whether or not it was worth teching. And yellow has those cards as well. We'll be getting into our set 3 coverage a little later this week. So I personally think that best of 3 with sideboarding, or at very minimum best of 1 with sideboarding, would be the actual way that this game continues to stay fresh. It's a whole other subject about getting into the tournaments, but when you do get into the tournament, you don't want to get ran out by you low rolling, your opponent high rolling, and that being the only game you got to play, and that's it. And like I said, the current status structure of the format makes this the viable strategy for winning, and I just don't think that that's healthy for the future of this game. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you would think that best of 1 Preside or best of 3 would be a better format. If you feel like best of 1 is still a good format, let me know. I might battle you a little bit in the comments. I will test your theory. I will talk to you and ask why. But let me know. And yeah, hopefully this video gets big enough for Bandai to see it. So thanks. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'm going to play the Mystic TCG advert. And yeah, if you want to have a cool place to vend your cards on Facebook or buy singles on TCG Player, using my affiliate code maybe, or buy sealed, but just know that you have to pre-order way in advance for One Piece because it is hot. It flies off the shelf. Look no further than Mystic TCG. So I'll play that. You guys, thank you for showing up, and I will see you in the next video. Later. So let's talk about Mystic TCG, your one-stop shop for all your TCG needs. On the site, you can buy or pre-order plenty of sealed product for plenty of games. Just make sure though, if you're pre-ordering, to give it 3 to 4 months in advance to start looking, because sometimes the product is indeed hot, supply and demand, you know. And then if you want to buy singles, go on tcgplayer.com. There's going to be a link in the description where you can buy for the best value. And if you want to sell cards or collections, you can message them on their Facebook site so you can get the best bang for your buck on any type of way you want to buy or sell cards. And then while you're at it, you can use the code UNIXTCG at checkout to get even more of a discount. So hey, what are you waiting for? Check out Mystic TCG today.